This year, I've been practicing doing nothing, and it's been the most productive I've ever been. But honestly, it's been really difficult to be okay with doing nothing. I realized how uncomfortable it was to sit with my thoughts, along with the silence to take up the space. The worst part? It wasn't by accident. See, our attention has become the top commodity, and because of that, we've never been more productive. But in the process, we left behind the part of our brain that actually knows how to think. Well, I wanted to find my own way back, and spent the past year trying to learn how to be okay with doing nothing. And as it turns out, doing nothing is actually really complicated. You could almost call it a skill. And it could be the secret to a more productive life. The first step was recognizing that I even needed a break. I like to think of productivity as climbing a mountain. At first, I'm making good progress, so it feels great. Then, somewhere along the climb, something shifts. A gnawing feeling starts to take hold of my stomach. It's telling me I'm tired, but I don't want to listen, because it felt so good to be productive. So I keep going. And the entire time, my oxygen is getting lower and lower. At first, I get a bit cranky, then slightly erratic, and then every small anthill becomes the size of Everest. But I keep climbing, because stopping feels worse than taking a breath. All that's holding me together at this point is caffeine, adrenaline, and hope. Hope that if I just finish this one thing, everything's gonna be okay. That I'll be okay. But usually, the very first thing that goes before my energy, before my focus, is the ability to know when to stop. And that's usually when I know that I need a break. So I wanted to find out, what actually happens to me when I take that break? For me to explain that, I'm gonna have to introduce you to my brain. There's two modes that it can be in, the task positive network and the default mode network. To make it easier for myself, I started to think of them as the mover and the janitor. The mover is responsible for interacting with the outside world. If there's a task to be done, it's his job to deal with it. And then there's his coworker, the janitor, responsible for emotions, memories, and creativity. And the one that actually goes to work when I take a break. Now there's a big issue here. Like most coworkers, these two don't always see eye to eye. Most of the time, only one of them gets to be in control at any time. The mover is really good at his job, but right now, with the constant pull in our attention, he becomes overwhelmed and overloaded. And because he's really good at his job, what happens when he never lets go of the controls? Well, the janitor never actually gets a chance to clean up, to organize the thoughts, pick up the mess, and start to make the connections that the mover missed. He can only get started when there's nobody paying attention. That's why the best ideas can come from doing nothing. It's not a coincidence. That's the janitor finally getting to do his job. But here's the thing that I got wrong for a long time. Any demanding interaction shuts the janitor down. A screen, a notification, ironically enough, a video. Anything that gets my attention pulls the janitor away and brings the mover from his break to be in charge, even when he's running empty. The one truth that I kept ignoring was that a break isn't a reward. I couldn't recover from the chaos by finding more chaos. It was honestly why I was still exhausted after a break. It's because a proper one is supposed to be boring. It's supposed to feel like nothing. So I tried it. It seemed simple enough. How hard could doing nothing really be? So I let there be nothing. And then nothing looked back. You know when you're too lazy to take out the trash, and even though it's full, you just keep pushing it down, hoping that there's enough empty space for the garbage to go? Same thing with my thoughts. Everything I'd pushed down for months, all rushing out at the same time. At first, I thought I was doing it wrong. Why did doing nothing make so much noise? So I tried my best to fill it. I scrolled, I played games, anything to fill that nothing. That's why I was still exhausted after a break. But the thing about failing and trying again anyway is that each attempt stacks on top of itself. Each failure was giving my janitor more and more of a chance to show up and clean. Every time I'd start again, I had more room to work with. But the thing I realized was that the trash he put away was starting to get too heavy. He couldn't clean it alone. Now, what would happen if the mover and the janitor were able to put aside their differences, where the relationship between the two could evolve into something way better? A promotion, if you will, for the mover to start building and the janitor to start planning. This is what's commonly known as the state of flow. The mover can focus on the physical act and not have to worry about what he's doing, because the janitor is already mapping out the blueprints ahead of him. It's why top athletes are able to experience flow so easily, because it's trained and ingrained. And just like any athlete, it needed me to accept that rest meant doing nothing. Now, there's very few things that can actually get them to work together. It needed to keep the mover's attention, but simple enough to go on autopilot. Well, the most natural thing for me to face the silence was to focus on my breath. At first, it was hard to pay attention to it, mainly because it was so automatic. But being intentional with something so simple gave me room to accept the thoughts. I was slowly starting to train the mover and the janitor to work together. Then, I started to wonder, what else is as natural as breathing? The next best thing for me was walking. It was something so second nature that I didn't even have to think about it. And it stacked really well with intentional breathing. The combo of focusing on my breath while walking worked even better to make me aware of the thoughts that drained me. Honestly, even pacing around the house seemed to do the trick. Just a few minutes every day helped me to embrace the silent beauty of nothing. But I needed a place to put the thoughts down. Otherwise, where else would they go? That's where a journal comes in handy. See, journaling is all the right things working in tandem. The physical act of writing while bringing emotions and memories to the surface and catching them all at the same time. Didn't need anything life-changing, just enough space for the mover to become a builder and the janitor into a planner. And by embracing doing nothing, things slowly started to shift. The really freeing thing? I finally became productive the moment I stopped trying to be. Why were we told that productivity just meant doing more? Work more, do more, be more? The answer turned out to be a lot simpler than what I was promised. True productivity is learning to do nothing. Work and rest need to be side by side. One can't function without the other. It seems easy, mainly because it's so simple. But the thing I've come across time and time again is that the hardest things to do are the simplest, because there's nowhere to hide. Next time you feel like you aren't doing enough, try giving the keys to the janitor. You'd be surprised what comes from doing nothing.